My name is Charlene Margot, and I'm the founder and director of the Parent Education Series, which was founded now 15 years ago at Menlo Atherton High School in the Sequoia Union High School District. We are proud now to be the largest program of its kind in Silicon Valley with more than 80,000 attendees, and we owe that success to you, the parents who care enough about your kids to sign on to programs like today. So again, thank you. I wish that we could be together in person, and I hope that we will again soon. But in the meantime, we've really had a wonderful summer with some great offerings, and today is absolutely a wonderful workshop, very practical with advice about the community college transfer program. So before I get started, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, as always, the Sequoia Healthcare District, the Sequoia Union High School District, and now our new nonprofit organization, the Parent Venture. So again, great thanks to our sponsors. And we have an event coming up next week on Thursday, July 30th at noon, the same time as this webinar, called Better Digital Parenting, Research-Based Strategies for Unprecedented Times with Dr. Alicia Blum-Ross and Anya Kamenetz, who's the education correspondent for NPR. So again, tune in with us next Thursday for that workshop. And today what we're going to do is we're going to have about 30 minutes of content with our presenters, Cleve Freeman, Bernie Day, and Modesta Garcia. Thank you for joining us. And then at the end of that presentation program, we will be taking questions from the audience. So if you're new to Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A tab. Please type your questions into the Q&A tab. You're welcome to talk to one another, send information to us, the panelists, under chat. But please do put your questions under Q&A. I have some questions that have come from our panelists and also from previous parent events, so we look forward to your questions. And let's get started. I'm going to tell you a little bit about today's panel. First of all, Cleve Freeman, MS, is the Transfer Center Director and Counselor at Foothill College, and he was previously at Stanford University as a Career Center intern. He has worked as a counselor for over 12 years and teaches college success courses, preparing students to become competitive transfer applicants. Cleve is a multicultural, bilingual, English and Spanish person, committed to helping all students meet their educational aspirations, especially underserved student populations. Bernie Day, MS, recently retired from Foothill College after 37 years supporting students at both the community college and four-year levels. During her tenure, she taught college courses, counseled students, directed the Foothill Honors Institute, and worked with public and private universities to streamline transfer of coursework. Ms. Day also helped to develop the CCC to CSU Associate Degree for Transfer Program, and she supported the establishment of the California Community College Guaranteed Transfer Program to more than 35 historically Black colleges and universities. Thank you, Bernie, for joining us. Modesta Garcia. Modesta earned an educational master's degree at Harvard University Graduate School of Education because of her life-changing experience as a student at a community college, the College of San Mateo. Inspired by her CSM mentors and counselors, Modesta dreamed of returning one day to her alma mater as a counselor, and she has. She began her post-secondary education at the College of San Mateo, CSM, and she went on to earn a BA from Santa Clara University. She served as an admission officer at Santa Clara and Princeton University before returning to her dream job as an academic counselor at CSM. So please join me in a very warm welcome for our panelists, Bernie and Cleve and Modesta. All right, take it away, you guys.
Thanks so much for that introduction, Charlene. Cleve, Modesta, and I are delighted to join you all today for this important discussion. Today, we're here to explore community college transfer options as one path for completing the baccalaureate degree. We've divided today's conversation into 5 parts, during which we'll share with you some detailed information regarding community college transfer in the first half hour. Then, as Charlene alluded, during the last half hour, we look forward to answering your specific questions. Because we're covering a great deal of information in a short amount of time, a recording of this seminar, as well as some documents with helpful links and resources, will soon be available for you on the Parent Venture webpage. We assume that some of you may be at the beginning stages of exploring college options for your child, while others who are here today may be assessing your options due to financial or other life changes. And while we realize that for many students and parents, attending community college may not be a natural first choice, we hope that by the end of our time together, you'll find that community colleges offer some wonderful educational opportunities for students. As we provide information about college transfer and dispel some myths, we'll outline the academic and transfer services community colleges provide, and we'll explain some exciting transfer opportunities. Along the way, we'll try to squeeze in a few transfer success stories as well. So you now see photos of some very accomplished individuals who range from Academy Award winners and astronauts to neurosurgeons and a state Supreme Court justice. And we ask you, what do these folks have in common? Well, the answer is that each of these high achievers was a community college transfer student. And despite what you might think, these individuals are not anomalies. In California, each year, about 105,000 students transfer to four-year colleges and universities from our 116 community colleges. And the encouraging news is that universities are actively recruiting community college students. You see, for every 2 freshmen the UC admits, they also admit 1 community college transfer. But not all students transfer to a CSU or UC. In 2018-19, more than 21,000 students transferred to private and out-of-state colleges such as USC, Santa Clara, Arizona State, and UW. And yes, those numbers also include transfers to ultra-selective institutions such as Stanford, Penn, and Harvard. We tend to think of transferring as an alternative path. However, according to the National Clearinghouse, 37% of all college students transfer to another college at some point during their education. While many transfers begin at a community college, a large number of students begin at a university, which they discover is not the best fit. So they return home, attend community college, and later transfer to a different university. You may even know a student like that. Some of you wonder, how does the quality of community college education compare with that at a university? Well, we can assure you that transfer students leave community colleges well prepared for university success. According to research that was conducted by the University of California, community college transfers graduate at the same rate as students who began at the UC as freshmen. Interestingly, the UC also found that community college transfers actually earned a higher GPA during their junior and senior years than did the students who began at the UC as freshmen. Finally, it's worth a mention that more than 50% of all CSU graduates and 30% of all UC graduates were community college transfers. So today we enthusiastically bring you a message of hope regarding the cost and access to a college degree. You already know that community colleges provide a lower cost alternative to completing the first 2 years of college. However, they also afford students additional time to explore careers and majors, research their best fit college, and engage in a smaller learning community. At the lower division level, community college classes generally have fewer students than CSU or UC classes, which provide students with greater access to tenured faculty as opposed to graduate teaching assistants. During this pandemic, many parents are questioning whether to send their students away to expensive colleges for online classes. And some of you have concerns about health and safety in campus living communities. So now community colleges are uniquely qualified to provide a high-quality distance learning opportunity because the faculty have long been trained to teach in different modalities because of the diverse student population. With regard to transfer, community colleges provide a wonderful second chance for students to be admitted to their dream schools. Generally speaking, that 4.0 student who is crushed by not being accepted to a selective university as a freshman will be thrilled when she's welcomed by similar universities as a transfer student. There are outstanding resources to help make that transfer happen for your students. But as emerging adults, it's critical that students understand that they need to take the initiative to seek out professional guidance, to explore their academic and career goals, and to utilize the support programs you'll be hearing about in a moment, all of which are available at absolutely no cost. It's a myth that students attend community colleges just to complete general education courses. Most universities, especially the UC and CSU, require evidence of career preparation in their applicants. Therefore, we highly recommend that community college students start on the right foot by enrolling in a career life planning and college readiness course. These courses are transferable to most universities, and they help students learn how to navigate college and to decide on a major that's well suited for them. The sooner students decide on a major, the sooner they can develop a plan to complete their requirements efficiently. Even now, during this pandemic, students will find that counseling, financial aid, and tutoring, among other services, are readily available to them via online platforms such as Zoom. My colleague, Cleve Freeman, will now outline some of the guaranteed and preferred transfer programs that community colleges provide to help your students reach their goals.
Thank you, Bernie. And good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, excuse me. I'd first like to thank Charlene for providing these informative webinars for parents and students. Last week's webinar about conversation with youth and race was powerful. So thank you, Charlene. Before I begin, I just wanted to quickly let Spanish-speaking families know that they can contact me with their questions in Spanish after the webinar. Para los padres que hablan español, quiero asegurarles que yo también hablo español. Si tienen preguntas, pueden conseguir mi número por medio de Charlene Margot después de este seminario. Gracias. Okay, so let's begin. While California community colleges offer a variety of associate's degrees and certificates for immediate employment, they are also transfer institutions. This portion of the webinar will primarily focus on the general criteria for transferring from a California community college to UCs and CSUs, and a little bit about private four-year institutions via guaranteed and preferred transfer programs. I want to make a point that attending a community college to transfer to a university is a great opportunity. It can be a place for students to explore their careers and majors of interest by joining numerous programs that can improve their chance of admission to many universities. It can also be a great place for students to transition as they become their independent selves should they decide to leave home for college. As stated earlier, there are 116 California community colleges. There are also 23 CSUs, 10 UCs, and hundreds of private and out-of-state universities. The majority of colleges in California are on the semester system, while some colleges are on the quarter system. Regarding UCs, I'll only be referring to 9 of the 10 UCs because one of them, UCSF, University of California, San Francisco, is a medical school that primarily offers master's degrees and higher. The common criteria for students transferring from a community college to a UC or CSU includes completion of general education and major preparatory courses to be competitive transfer applicants to most or all universities. There are also minimum GPAs for university admissions, as well as specific minimum GPAs for university major course requirements. Depending on the major, the required GPA for major courses might be higher than the general admissions GPA. We also recommend students to please aim high and strive to get a higher GPA than just meeting the minimum. Another factor to be prepared for transfer to a UC or CSU is that students should know what major they want to pursue sooner than later. This gives them the opportunity to begin taking their major required courses early so universities can verify how prepared students are for their major. The good thing about major courses, some of them can also be used as general education as well. Keep in mind, students must be prepared to select their major at the time of application. Oftentimes, parents and students want to know how long it takes to transfer to a UC or CSU. Generally speaking, there are several criteria that determines a student's transfer timeline. Here are a few. Number 1, it can depend on a student's major. For example, a science or math related major versus a liberal arts related major. Number 2, how many advanced placement exams they've passed. And number 3, how many community college classes they've taken while in high school. Given the criteria I stated, students might be able to transfer within 1 year, depending on what criteria they've met. If students don't meet any of the criteria I just mentioned, it's not uncommon for them to transfer within 2 or 3 years from a community college. That being said, I want to reassure you that universities don't mind if students take 3 years to transfer. In terms of private and out-of-state institutions, they each have their own distinct transfer eligibility criteria, and they don't necessarily follow the UC and CSU transfer admission basics. For example, transfer students might be able to transfer with as little as 30 semester or 45 quarter transferable units within 1 year. Here is another popular question many parents and students ask college counselors. What is the secret formula to be admitted to any and all universities? Oftentimes, we convey the message that there really isn't a secret formula. However, there are things students can do to be competitive applicants, which is some of what we're going to share today. Even though there really isn't a guaranteed admission to all universities, here are some universities that do provide guaranteed admission by way of the California Community College. The first guaranteed admission option I'll talk about is within the UC system. UCs have an agreement called a Transfer Admission Guarantee, also known as TAG, T-A-G. The TAG agreement is available with every California community college. 6 out of the 9 UCs offer a guaranteed admission to their campus. They include UC Davis, UC Santa Cruz, UC Riverside, UC Irvine, UC Santa Barbara, and UC Merced. There are several factors and guidelines that students must follow to be eligible for a TAG. They include a minimum GPA and completion of certain general education and/or major coursework within a specific time frame. The 3 UCs that are not part of the TAG agreement are UCLA, UC Berkeley, and UC San Diego. While these 3 UCs do not participate in TAG, they have programs unique to their campus that can help students be competitive applicants to their universities. Another guaranteed admission option is with the CSU system, when students complete an associate's degree for transfer, also known as an ADT. If students complete an ADT at any California community college that is similar to their university major, they get guaranteed admission to the CSU system. This means that students who are not admitted to their first choice campus will be redirected to a different CSU campus. The CSU usually invites students to participate in the redirection of their CSU application. On a side note, both the UC and CSU systems strongly encourage students to complete an ADT related to their major. Completing an ADT also gives guaranteed admission to over 30 historically Black colleges and universities, often referred to as HBCUs. Another type of transfer admission agreement, which is not necessarily a guarantee, but more of a slight edge for a university admission, are agreements between some private and/or out-of-state universities and various California community colleges. A couple local examples here in the Bay Area include University of San Francisco and Santa Clara University. If students complete specific coursework and maintain a certain GPA, they have a higher chance of being admitted to these schools. While there isn't a secret formula to be admitted to all universities, here are a few strategies that may help students be competitive transfer applicants. Please keep in mind that universities don't always look at your GPA. They also look at students' accomplishments outside of their academics. Here are a few examples. We recommend students to immerse themselves in research projects with their community college and local universities. Sometimes, these projects are coordinated through the community college. We also recommend them to be involved in student government and join clubs or organizations at their community college. Maybe your student has a special talent and/or has overcome life hardships. Universities also look at struggle and resilience, teamwork, leadership, volunteerism, the student's involvement in career associations, meeting university representatives, exploring university websites, and visiting their campuses. We strongly recommend students to pursue these activities because they enjoy them, not just because they're trying to build their transfer profile. Okay, so right now, we're going to transition a little bit to provide a brief overview of services and tools at community colleges that support your students' transfer success. Every California community college has a transfer center and a general counseling center. All the counselors in both centers do the exact same thing. We provide academic counseling, career counseling, personal counseling, and transfer counseling. We also teach courses about college success, career exploration, and transfer readiness. In terms of transfer, all of our counselors review students' scholarship and college essays, students' tags, students' university applications, provide up-to-date transfer information, and create tailored education plans. The primary difference between the Transfer Center and Counseling Center is that the Transfer Center bridges the gap between the students and the universities. For example, we schedule university representatives from UC, CSU, and some private schools. They visit our campus throughout the year virtually and in person. Currently, all of our visits are virtual. Sometimes we also coordinate university field trips. The Transfer Center role is also to make the transfer process as seamless as possible for all students, especially for students that are underrepresented in education. In addition to the Transfer Center and General Counseling Center, community colleges also have special programs that provide support for various student populations. For example, there are counselors for student athletes that need assistance navigating the NCAA regulations. There are also counselors for students with disabilities and/or learning differences, including but not limited to anxiety and depression. Other programs include EOPS, which stands for Extended Opportunities, Programs, and Services, Puente, and Emoja. The purpose of these programs is to increase the number of underrepresented students and first-generation college students to successfully transfer to four-year colleges and universities. Another program called MESA, which stands for Mathematics, Engineering, and Science Achievement, is a program that some community colleges have and that they also support underrepresented students pursuing degrees in STEM. And STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. As you can see, there is an array of support services for community college students. I have a couple of more points before I end. First, financial aid is always a popular topic. There is a lot of free money out there. For example, the prestigious Jack Kent Cook Undergraduate Transfer Scholarship was created for community college transfer students. If awarded the scholarship and when the student transfers, it will cover a lot of their university expenses while providing ongoing guidance and support. Although we, the panelists, are not experts in financial aid, we can safely say that all California community colleges provide financial aid, including, but not limited to, free, that's right, I said free tuition for up to 2 years after students complete a FAFSA. The acronym FAFSA, F-A-F-S-A, stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Please visit your local community college financial aid website for more details and ask about College Promise. We've also included a college cost comparison document within our resources for today's webinar. And last but not least, please don't forget to consistently work with a community college counselor to assist you on your transfer journey. Now, my colleague Bernie Day will share how community college units transfer to universities and highlight other great tools and programs. Thank you.
Thanks, Cleve. We understand that it can be a parent's worst nightmare to think that their child might take community college classes for which a university later refuses to award credit. So you'll be relieved to know that community colleges have agreements with all CSUs and UCs and with many private and out-of-state institutions that guarantee exactly how those courses will transfer. While some courses satisfy general education requirements, others are approved for lower division major prep, and still yet another group are what we call electives. But with careful planning, students can complete courses that double count for both the major and the GE, which is an important reason for students to see a counselor for their educational planning. These transferability contracts are called articulation agreements, and the agreements with the UC and the CSU are available online at a website called assist.org. Agreements with private and out-of-state colleges vary from campus to campus, and they're available through individual college web pages. Again, we want to emphasize, and I think we're sounding like a broken record here, how important it is that students meet with a counselor to ensure they're correctly interpreting how their courses will transfer. Our shared goal is that your students will transfer to their preferred university in a timely and cost-effective manner. Now, some of your students may have earned IB, AP, or CLEP credit while they were in high school. The community colleges also have agreements with the CSU and UC regarding how credit for those exams will apply towards GE and major requirements. Information about applying credit towards GE is available in all college catalogs, but students with exam credit should always meet with a counselor to review policies about how that credit might be applied towards their major, because the minimum score and some of those details vary from university to university. And now I'm excited to tell you just a little bit about community college honors programs. Because, you know, for some students, a strong desire to learn arrives with adulthood. Those students are going to be pleased to know that at least 50 community colleges in California also offer honors programs. And boy, do they differ significantly from high school honors and AP classes. Many high school classes are geared towards successfully passing the AP exam. The community college honors courses were developed to promote critical thinking and engagement in a community of motivated learners. And they're perfect for all students, especially those who may not have previously been in those high achiever programs, but who are now motivated to maybe give it a try. Universities are especially attracted to community college honors students, and many even offer preferred or guaranteed admission. As an example, an honors student's likelihood of being admitted to UCLA from an honors program is about 5 to 6 times greater than it is for students applying from the generic applicant pool. When I served as director of the Honors Institute, our data showed that on average, 85 to 95% of our honors program graduates were admitted to UCLA, compared to only 14% of the non-applicant pool that was non-honors. Well, you can't really call that an admission guarantee. You can safely surmise that the odds of admission are far greater for honors students. And as you see on the slide, UC Irvine and many other institutions also offer admission guarantees or preference for honors students. The exciting fact is that many of our most successful honors students previously did not consider themselves honors material. For example, the first honors student with whom I worked was a high school dropout who attended community college and transferred to UCLA. She then went on to complete graduate school at both Columbia and Penn, culminating with a doctorate at the University of Cambridge in London. But her story is not unique. I know that each of my colleagues on this panel can share similar student success stories with you. At this time, my colleague Modesta Garcia will share some information about transfer to private and out-of-state colleges.
Thank you, Bernie. And thank you, Charlene and Bev, for coordinating this timely session. And it has certainly been a pleasure working with Cleve and Bernie. And I'm proud to share that Cleve is a former CSM student who had enrolled in one of my classes when I worked there. Now that you've heard about transferring to the California public universities, I'd like to shed light on transfer options among private and out-of-state institutions. I will also provide success strategies to enhance a student's chances of being admitted to their dream university. Among America's 1,700 private colleges and universities, there are 85 in California alone. Additionally, college consortia, or geographic clusters of colleges, expand college choices. As such, each college maintains its own admissions criteria, its own tuition and fee structure, and academic policies. Students within a particular association participate in the various campus's resources, such as joint departments and programs, athletic teams, and inter-campus transportation. One example is the original cooperative, the 5 Colleges Consortium, which includes 4 small private colleges, each enrolling 2,700 students, or that is under 2,700 students, and 1 public research institution that registers over 21,000 students. The small schools are, Amherst College, Hampshire College, Mount Holyoke College, Smith College, and the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, a public institution. The Atlanta University Center Consortium is the nation's largest consortium of HBCU students in higher education. The 4 historically Black colleges and universities include Clark Atlanta University, Spelman College, Morehouse College, and the Morehouse School of Medicine. Other consortium examples include the Claremont Colleges, the Big Ten, the Barnard Columbia Juilliard Consortium, and the Quaker Tri-College Consortium, to name a few. Over 70 consortia combining public and private institutions exist in the United States. Within a segment of public colleges and universities, the Western Undergraduate Exchange, WUI, is America's largest regional interstate tuition savings program. At least 160 institutions provide steep, non-resident tuition savings for Western states students. Choices, choices, choices. What are the students' next steps? Students, take initiative. Engage your community college resources and start planning early, as in your first college term with your academic counselor. Enroll in transfer and career success courses. Attend workshops and university recruitment sessions offered through your transfer center. Conduct your own research and scour the websites of the university on your list. Contact the university departments and student organizations with your questions only after, I repeat, only after you have already searched for the answers on their websites. Check LinkedIn for alumni profiles. Where are they now? Contact the university's alumni office and consider connecting with their graduates. Students, reinforce your independence. Make it clear to the colleges that you are guiding the college application process. The admission officers will search for signs that a student is ready to move away and able to succeed on their own, especially when you're applying to colleges thousands of miles away from home. So, parents, when you mention that we are applying to such and such colleges, or you happen to be the one contacting the universities on behalf of your student, there may be reason for an admission office to question the student's independence. Now, what do selective colleges look for? First and foremost, the academic record is the most important part of students' application. Colleges look for rigorous course selection and strong academic performance. Some colleges require submission of SAT or ACT scores. Each applicant's unique life story is considered, and universities will inquire about the following: extracurricular activities, family responsibilities, work experience, or military service. When applying to some schools, the student applies to the university as a whole, not to a particular major, department, or school. Other universities encourage the applicant to have adhered to a specific major interest while completing those departmental requirements, and then to transition into that major at the university level. Some California private colleges encourage prospective applicants to follow the UC transfer guidelines. Personal qualities and character are also important. Some colleges review applications from 2 perspectives, faculty and student. They ask, if I were faculty, would I want to have this student in my class? And if I were a student, would I want to be roommates with this applicant? A student's personal qualities are reflected in their college essays as well as teacher recommendations. One highly selective admissions college dean states that the final decision to admit an applicant is based on character. Demonstrated interest in a particular college is also important. Follow your dream school on social media. Register for an official campus tour and the admissions information session, post-pandemic, of course. In the meantime, take virtual tours. Note, when the admissions committee is making that final decision on admitting students, the remaining slots may go to applicants who have demonstrated an interest in their college. Now let's talk about social media before wrapping up this part of the session. Be sensible. The National Association of College Admission Counseling, NACAC, notes the following. A study released by Kaplan Test Prep in April 2018 reveals that more than 2/3 of colleges see applicants' social media profiles as fair game for consideration. And 50% of the colleges surveyed who do screen social media say it helps or hurts a student's application. In closing, I share NACAC's advice to teens on social media etiquette. Think, T-H-I-N-K. T, is it true? H, is it helpful? I, is it inspiring? N, is it necessary? K, is it kind? Think. And on that note, I think it's time for the Q&A session. Thank you. And Charlene will join us now for some questions from the audience.
Thank you so much, Bernie and Cleve and Modesta. That was a very information-packed session. And I just want to remind everyone that we are video recording today. So for those of you who need to hear it again, this will be free and the recording will be available on the Parent Education and the Parent Venture website. So thank you. First of all, Modesta, I really appreciate your comments about students' advocacy and independence, because we know both from the research and from anecdotal evidence that a student's success in college, whether it is at a community college or a four-year college, really depends upon their self-advocacy and their ability to find what interests them and to find good mentors. So again, a really important point, really get your students to advocate for themselves, to make those phone calls. If mom or dad is making the call, it just doesn't have the same impact, as Modesta said. Cleve is available. He loves to hear from students, right, Cleve? So again, let's get going on the questions. I have a few from prior parent questions, and then I will also get to the ones that you have submitted. If you have questions, again, a reminder to type them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, okay? Here we go. First of all, this is a question that many parents have. My daughter is interested in taking college classes while she is in high school. Will that help her chance of admission to a good college? Do the classes count for college credit or for high school credit? Cleve, I'm gonna let you take that one.
Yes, thank you, Charlene. So yes, taking classes at a community college while you're in high school can benefit you in both ways. One, you can finish your high school credit. You can finish your high school graduation with the community college classes, and you can take classes that will help you transfer if you decide to go to the community college before you transfer to a university. Many or all California community colleges have programs called dual enrollment. They have dual enrollment programs. One example is Middle College. So yes, this can help students transfer and complete their high school diploma at the same time.
Thank you, Cleve. Now here's a question that we hear from many parents, especially in our local communities here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Do community colleges accept AP credits? I think this is a good one probably for you, Bernie.
Sure. Yeah, and I mentioned briefly in my remarks that the UC and the CSU have come to an agreement with the community college system about how AP and IB and even CLEP credits will, CLEPs don't go to UC, but they will go to the CSU. So we can automatically apply those towards completion of the general education. When it comes to the major, we need to look at the specific university, because some universities will require a score of 3, others 4. So that's a little bit, that's something that needs to be done one-on-one with a counselor, but definitely those credits will apply. And it enables students to transfer sometimes in a really fast way because they come in with so many credits.
Thank you. Oh, and I'm reminded, Cleve, someone asked the question of, is the Counseling and Transfer Program Center open this summer?
Yes, so actually, you know, I can't speak for all California community colleges, but generally speaking, the General Counseling Center is open in the summer. And the Transfer Center, hours may vary because the General Counseling Center is the primary office, but hours may vary for the Transfer Center depending which California community college you go to.
Okay, thank you. And again, Cleve's contact information is listed in the chat. You can also find him on the Foothill College website, but again, his contact information is in our chat stream. All right, Modesta, here's one for you, graduate of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Do Ivy League and other elite colleges accept community college transfers?
Absolutely, they do. And I'll tell you, there have been times when community college transfers were not an option. Transferring to an Ivy League was not an option, or a particular Ivy League college. But generally, they are accepting community college students, and they welcome them. And they are looking for that variety of diversity as well in their communities. Also, as we're speaking of that, I encourage community college students to look into summer programs at the Ivy League colleges. They offer research programs. School of Engineering, School of Theater offers summer programs, and they are definitely looking for community college students to participate in those sessions as well.
All right, here's a related question that just came in from one of our attendees. How can transfer students get involved in research? Anybody?
Bernie?
Okay, I'll take that. I'll just start with honors programs. So for the students who attend a community college, there is an annual honors research symposium that's held every year, one at UC Irvine, one at either Berkeley or Stanford. And so all students present there if they so choose. It's a competitive process, different community colleges offer opportunities to participate in research projects. So I'm going to speak to Foothill College because that's the institution I'm familiar with, but we have a participating program with Stanford, and we have dozens of students who do research at Stanford with faculty and with doctoral candidates. And they've done some pretty exciting work and actually been able to present at different professional conferences with that research. So that's the type of demonstrated interest in a major that a university would love to see.
I also can add to that. Foothill College also has something called the Medical Brigade, where some of our students can go around the world to help students in developing countries. We also have another program with our anthropology department where they travel to Europe to do to archaeological sites. One more common program that I know is accessible to all California community college students is Stanford also has a summer program. I know one for sure is medical based, so students can attend that as well.
Wow, fantastic opportunities. Makes me want to start college all over again, you guys. Okay, here's a good question and a timely one because we know that this is happening to many students. My son went to a university last year, but it was not a good fit. If he attends a community college this year, what are his chances of transferring to a UC or CSU? I think, Bernie, why don't you take this one?
Sure. Well, I think you saw in some of the examples we showed through our brief presentation that is definitely a possibility. I think what we would do is take a look at that student's record and see, was the student successful even though he or she decided the college wasn't a good fit, or was there some remediation that needs to take place? But we work with students like that all the time. And so we would sit down and tailor an individual plan to help that student figure out where he or she wants to go and how to get there. So if a student was somewhere that wasn't a good fit and the student failed all the classes, then there may be a few issues we need to work on with that university. But definitely we work, whatever problem you can imagine, we've seen it with students. And we've seen students, I mean, you don't even have to have a high school diploma to get into UC. So, I mean, we've worked with students the whole gamut. So definitely the answer I would have is absolutely we'll find a way to help you get where you want to go, even if the first attempt at college wasn't wonderful.
All right, and I just, as a parent and a parent educator, I want to emphasize what Bernie and Cleve and Modesta are saying. Because for many kids, the first college is not a good fit. We see students returning from schools that they thought were their dream college. And in some cases, it's because they weren't ready. They hadn't developed the self-advocacy skills, which are really important. My own two children, who are both young adults, attended research universities here. in the Bay Area. They had been taught to self-advocate, but many of their friends had not. And what you're hearing here is the amount of help that's available at the community colleges. And I'm not going to call it hand-holding because that's not a good phrase, but really if students seek it out, what you're hearing today is how much assistance they can get to get where they want to go. So that's an important point what we want to make today. Okay, question from our audience. Are all community colleges the same? Would one have different resources or lower faculty-student ratio over another? And do CCs offer college campus tours? Anybody?
Yes, yes, I can speak to that. So all California community colleges are not the same, just like UCs and CSUs. They all have their own culture, their own look, their own feel. Some students choose to go to a community college that has a small population, so they don't feel overwhelmed. And other students like to be in the bigger California community colleges where maybe because there's a football team or they really want to be active in student life. So there are many different California community colleges, and almost all of them have like an outreach department or marketing department that have tours. They also have summer orientations if you want to learn about the campus before you begin in the fall. And they also have these kind of services throughout the year.
Okay, thank you, Cleve. All right, here's one that everybody's thinking about. Due to the COVID pandemic, we're thinking about keeping our twins at home, even though they were already accepted to great universities. Can they defer their admission until this thing passes and it's safe to move into their dorms? Cleve, what do you say?
Well, yes and no. I kind of want to see what Bernie would say about this one.
Not to put you on the spot, Bernie, but there you go.
This is a tricky one.
Well, we anticipated this question, so we reached out to the folks at the University of California Office of the President and to the Cal State University Chancellor's offices. And both of them have web pages now that answer pandemic-related questions. So with those institutions, which is what, 33 institutions, the answer is once you start attending a community college, they will see you as a community college transfer, which means you then need to complete 60 semester or 90 quarter units. They are not flexible at this point to allow a student to attend community college for a quarter or a semester and then go back when it's sort of safe at the university. So that's really unfortunate. We were hoping that there would be a little more flexibility, but you know, everybody's been shooting from the hip trying to respond to this situation, and they just weren't prepared to do that right now.
Yeah.
And I would say in private institutions, you know, is going to be on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, and just to add to that, thank you, Bernie. And just to add to that, the unit, because we know that there might be some parents on here that, you know, my student already accepted the offer, but we're debating whether we should go or stay. So when we contacted the universities, the UC and CSU systems, they basically said, if the student has already accepted the offer and they want to defer their admission, it has to be for an extenuating life circumstance. It can't just be simply, oh, because of the pandemic, I don't want to go, you know, because I want to be on the campus. It can't simply be just that. It has to be an extenuating circumstance in life circumstance. So if your student stays home while they're taking classes at somewhere and they end up taking California community college classes while they're here, then they could be interpreted as a transfer student before they go to the university. I might have mixed up my words a little bit, but if the student stays home and decide not to go to the university until the university opens, and they decide to take California community college units, then they will be considered a transfer student and they have to complete the 60 semester or 90 quarter units.
So again, this is a question that is similar and a little bit different. Cleve, let's see what you say.
Okay.
Is there any insight as to COVID impact for transfer applicants acceptances for fall 2021? That is, will fall 2020 deferments impact available slots for fall 2021 entrance?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, I can give one example for CSU East Bay. I know for their nursing majors, the nursing majors that were admitted to CSU East Bay for fall 20 were actually deferred to fall 2021. So those students are already set. And it's one of those things where it's campus by campus. So it's hard to give a blanket answer for that.
Okay, all right, let's shift gears here a little bit to finances. If transferring to private colleges, will the merit scholarships and university grants be a lot less than for a freshman? For example, I know from experience at University of Berkeley that the financial aid does change year to year. So again, the question is, will the merit scholarships and university grants be less than for freshmen?
I guess I'll take that. There, as has been mentioned earlier, with private universities, policies occur on a case-by-case basis. So there are universities that on their website will distinctly say, merit scholarships are not available to transfer students.
We did that.
There are other private colleges that will say, we make decisions on a need-blind basis. So we're making admissions decisions regardless of a family's ability to pay. And if a student is admitted, the university will make sure that the student has the resources, the financial resources to attend that institution. So again, it's case by case. And, you know, given the time that we're living in right now with the pandemic, it could change semester by semester in terms of their policy. So that's why it's a good idea to always, you know, continue to stay in touch with staffing, but also first and foremost for students to check out the website, the university's website, because they're going to keep updating it. And also one thing that I always shared with my students at the college was, you want to do your research on your own first before you contact the university. You don't want to ask them anything that's already on the website, because some of these colleges do take notes. And, you know, if they see somebody that's not doing their homework, well, it may or may not reflect on the admission process, but universities and colleges are going to be looking for students that are very independent, and as you've mentioned a lot, that can be their own self-advocate. So back to your question, case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you. One of our attendees is asking, this question might be for you again, Modesta, is there a transfer program relationship with any of the liberal arts colleges in the country?
There are some, again, if a student goes to that university's website, they will find the articulation agreements that that university has with community colleges. And again, because of the nature of independent colleges, where they are, they all establish their own academic policies and admissions requirements, there's no one blanket statement that can be made. And again, you know, we're redirecting students to be self-advocates and to get to the websites.
Okay, good advice, thank you. Bernie, where do most of the students at your colleges transfer?
Oh my, well, we can actually put a link to a report out there if you want to see every single institution. But about 25% of the students are going to private and out of state, and then the rest are going to CSU and UC. So they're everywhere. I mean, each year we have a transfer event where we look at where the students are going, and it's all over the place. So, you know, students who need to stay closer to home will often choose San Jose State or Berkeley or, you know, local schools for those of us here in the Bay Area, but the students go literally everywhere.
Okay, good to know. Cleve, this question might be for you. This is a sort of a procedural question. This attendee is thanking you for a very helpful presentation. What can I do if the course I need listed on assist.org is not within 45 miles driving distance and the course is not online?
Oh, wow. That's a very good question.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. You know, it kind of depends on which university they're applying to. If the student is applying to like what we would say prestigious or a very impacted program for UC or CSU, they almost expect students to take the class, whether it's online or at a local community college. Sometimes universities do make exceptions if they understand that, well, I'm not good, I don't want to say make exceptions. I would say sometimes it is taken into consideration when the university realizes that that class necessarily isn't available in the students where the student lives or isn't available online. And if we're talking about the UC system, there's a section where something called personal insight questions where you could write your story about yourself. And in that section of the application, you can explain that to say, hey, you know, the class isn't offered online. It's not in my immediate area. That's why I haven't taken it yet. And usually universities do take that into consideration. But as I said, impacted campuses still might expect students to find a way to take that class.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions before we close. Here's another one from Lauren, one of our attendees. How do credits transfer if students have a combination of both semester and quarter credits? Also, how do credits transfer for students who are transferring from either a semester system to a quarter system, school, and vice versa?
Ooh, I like that one, but go ahead, Bernie.
Well, we have that all the time because there are
Yeah.
only 3-quarter community colleges and 113 semester community colleges. So, and since students take classes all over the place, we're constantly evaluating that. So a quarter unit is the equivalent of 2/3 of a semester unit. So we have a calculation where we figure it out, and it's not an issue for students. And if students have brought, you know, well, students bring in credits from all over the place. So there's just a formula, we assess it and figure it out. It's not a deterrent for students in trying to be able to put their package for transfer together.
And
Please.
just to add to that, yeah, exactly. I would have said the same thing. And just to add to that, it's very important that students complete a sequence of courses at one California community college. Students can go to as many California community colleges as they want. That's no problem. But as soon as they begin a sequence, for example, maybe a math sequence, or maybe a biology sequence, or a chemistry sequence, usually that has to be taken at one community college. And universities stress that, especially if you're planning on applying to med school.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Cleve. This is a question asking about a common application. We know that there's a common app for private colleges. Does that still exist? Is there a corollary program for the community colleges? And do counselors assist with this?
Yes, there is. Yes, there is a common app, and there is a common app, and it actually gives you the option for a freshman student or transfer student. So if you're transferring from a community college, you'll use the transfer student common app. And yes, the transfer centers and the counselors at community colleges, we do help with filling out the common app. You know, there's another application that I can't think of right now that some universities use, but we do stress that if the university has their own homegrown application, we stress that the students use that one because that might be the one that the university is most familiar with. And Common App it's not for UC or CSU, it's for private and or out-of-state universities.
Just to dovetail on that, yes, the other application you're thinking of, Cleve, is a coalition application, which is relatively new. And then again, to reinforce what you said, there are some universities that have their own college application and they will not use Common App or the coalition app. And so you must use that application for that particular university. I think MIT is still one of those, and maybe University of Chicago is still one of those that has their own application and will not use the Common App.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna have one last question for you, but before I do that, I just want to comment again to parents that we will be bringing Lynn O'Shaughnessy, who's a college financial journalist, later this fall, and she talks a lot about the community college because it is such a cost-effective way to get excellent education. And she makes the point, and I would reiterate this, that at some of our very fine public universities, large research universities, it can be hard for kids to find their way at a school with 30,000 students. So if you have a kid who you think may need some extra guidance, may need a little bit of runway to get their start on an excellent college education, there is no better place than the community colleges. And I think you've heard the evidence today from these wonderful people. So Okay, we know that students talk, so here's a great last question for any or all of you. What is the social life like at community colleges? I've heard that social life is almost non-existent at the CCs.
Wow, wow, that's a great question. You know, it really depends campus to campus, and it depends on the amount of students on the campus, and you know, it's what you make of it. It's what the student puts in, right? If the student gets involved, then they can have a great experience. But if the student just goes to class and then goes back home, then they won't be able to experience the college life. But it varies from campus to campus, and I think that's a great thing to research as you're deciding which community college that you want to attend. But there's a lot of activities, student activities in terms of clubs and organizations that students can be a part of. There's study abroad. There's a contest, and sometimes they bring bouncy houses. It can be really fun. You know, the student just has to stay engaged, be involved, and go to the student activities office. That's where you can find all the activities and the college life that exists at those community colleges.
Thank you, Cleve. Thank you, Bernie. Thank you, Modesta, for an incredible presentation today. Again, this event will be video recorded so that you can watch it at your leisure, share with your students, share with a spouse, family, or friends. We will be sending out 2 excellent resources provided by our panel today. One is actually a glossary of college terms, and the other is a estimated college cost chart, which is very, very helpful in your college planning. We'll also be sending out a very short survey. We hope that you'll complete and send back. It helps us with our planning for next year. I promise we read all of your comments. So again, thank you to our panel. Thank you for attending today, and we hope to see you next Thursday. Take care, everybody, and stay well.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.